Hey, Nate here from Skate Hub, and today I will be reviewing the Bajaboard G4 electric skateboard. Now, Bajaboard, their warehouse is literally an hour's drive for me, so I took the ride out to meet Alessandro and George and to see if I could pick up one of their boards so that I can do a review for you. Now, although their warehouse is modest, they are able to produce a beast of an electric skateboard out of there. The guys are super chilled and they absolutely love what they're doing. So this is actually Jay Boston's Bajaboard that I'm borrowing for this review. So I've got to send out a huge thanks to him for letting me ride it. And if you don't know Jay, he has a ton of awesome e-skate reviews and content on his YouTube channel. So please go check him out as a thanks for me, and I'll put a link to his channel right here. I'll also start out by saying that this video is not sponsored. I didn't receive any money at all, and I wasn't gifted any products whatsoever. So let's get stuck into the Bajaboard G4 review, which is what we're all here for. Bajaboard G4 is unlike any electric skateboard on the market at the moment. I'm almost inclined not to call it an electric skateboard because the build structure is just so different to anything else out there. But you still stand on it and ride it just like any other electric skateboard. Initially, when looking at the board, it might bring some fear and unease to some riders because it is just so big and looks so powerful. But what I keep trying to remind people is that yes, it is super powerful, and if you don't respect that, you will get hurt. But you can, at the same time, ride it slowly and safely. In fact, my best mate and my girlfriend, who are both total beginners to electric skateboard riding, said that they felt more comfortable on the Bajaboard than they have on any other electric skateboard. And I think that's because everything about the Bajaboard is designed for stability and control. It has a long and wide deck with big all-terrain tires and shock absorbers. Plus, it's really heavy, so it's not gonna move unless you make it move. And once you find your confidence with the Bajaboard and you start moving up the modes into faster and more powerful levels, you'll start to really understand what this electric skateboard is really capable of. It's surprisingly easy to find yourself riding around at 25 miles per hour or 40 kilometers an hour without a care in the world. It's a kind of confidence where you can be riding and freely looking around without having to constantly be vigilant about what's going on right in front of your wheels. But where this e-board really shines is in its off-road capabilities. The sheer power allows you to pull through grass and loose dirt tracks with ease. And the shock absorbers do an incredible job at sponging up all of the vibrations and unevenness of the ground. The Bajaboard G4 is perfect for riders who have long commutes to work or they want to go out on very, very long trips, because the sturdiness that the Bajaboard provides will give you a comfortable ride for the entire journey while still maintaining incredibly high speeds. However, the Bajaboard is not one for those who dislike maintenance. For the everyday rider, changing belts on the Bajaboard is going to be an effort. But if you're into that kind of thing and getting your hands dirty and meddling with machine parts, you're really going to love it. Bajaboard also have a ton of resources on their website and YouTube channel to help make maintaining your board super easy. Another thing to note is that if you don't have a dedicated space to store your Bajaboard, either at home or at the office or at school, then you probably want to reconsider. The board is big, bulky and heavy, and quite frankly, it's a bit of a pain in the ass to move around and store when you're not riding it. Though I do have to say, the riding experience and the power that you get from the Bajaboard does outweigh how big it is and how annoying it is to store. The listed top speed of the Bajaboard is 34 miles per hour, which is 55 kilometers an hour. And when I took it out to do the speed test, I topped it at 35 miles per hour, which is 55.9 kilometers an hour. But but it had even more in it. The reason I didn't push it faster was because I was actually terrified at riding it at that speed. And I've heard stories of some riders pushing it past 38 miles per hour or 60 kilometers an hour, which is actually insane for an electric skateboard. Doing the range test for the Bajaboard G4 was a bit of an adventure. For my first of 3 attempts, my range was a whopping 3.6 miles, which is 5.9 kilometers. What happened was I was riding along like normal, and without any warning, the remote just froze and disconnected from the board. The good thing was the motors switched off and the brakes activated to slowly and safely bring me to a complete stop. I tried to reconnect the remote and the board, but it was useless. The remote would constantly freeze, fail to load up, vibrate randomly. It was just a mess. I called Alessandro to let him know what happened. He said that they haven't experienced this issue with any other riders before, so this could be a unique issue that I'm having. On his recommendation, I took the remote and the board home and charged it to 100% full overnight and took it out for another ride the next day. This time I managed to ride 16.2 miles or 26.2 kilometers before the exact same thing happened again. The remote froze up, disconnected, and I came to a stop. Although 16.2 miles is still further than a lot of the electric skateboards out there, but it's nowhere near what I know this Bajaboard is capable of. The battery was down to 42%, so there were plenty of unused miles still left in the tank. I was convinced that it was just a faulty remote, so I drove all the way back over to Bajaboard HQ, swapped the remote out, reconnected, and charged them both up to 100% before trying for my third and final attempt. This time I managed to ride the board all the way down to depletion without any remote freezing or disconnection issues. So yeah, it was the remote. But to my surprise, I only got 18.4 miles, which is 29.7 kilometers. This is hardly any further than I got on my first ride where the remote disconnected at 42% battery. So something wasn't right. Unfortunately, I ran out of time. I had to give Jay back his board. But here's what happened. On my last ride, I had the lights on 100% brightness for half of the trip, which probably wouldn't use up too much battery, but it still might make a little bit of an impact. Secondly, I checked the tires and I did notice that they were deflated slightly. It wasn't enough to notice while you were riding, but if you were to check it with your thumb, you'd definitely feel the pressure loss. This obviously makes a huge difference to the range capabilities of the board. And finally, when I took the G4 back to Bajaboard, Alessandro noticed that the 2 front tires weren't in alignment correctly. And he's told me that this is going to make a significant impact on the amount of range that you can get out of your board. So you can see just how much maintenance is required to have your board performing at its optimum. Owning a Bajaboard requires the same amount of love and attention that you would give to your car. Just like your car needs to be serviced and well maintained to get the best fuel economy, your Bajaboard is exactly the same. I rode the Bajaboard G4 up some really steep hills. Some were on-road and some were off-road. And the Baja just completely destroys them. Even the steepest hills, I was climbing them at about 25 miles per hour, which is 40 kilometers an hour. So hills on the Bajaboard are not even worth worrying about. The brakes on the Bajaboard are completely customizable, so you can have them as strong or as weak as you want. I tested the braking power at the weakest setting and the strongest setting by applying the brakes at 100% while riding at 18.6 miles per hour or 30 kilometers an hour, and seeing how long it took to come to a complete stop. At the low end of the braking power, it took ages to stop. In fact, I didn't even come to a complete stop, I just got off the board. However, on the strong setting, it took 15 meters to stop, and it was smooth as butter. And the good thing about the Bajaboard is that you can customize that braking power to be anywhere between those two extremes. The deck is a 39.8-inch maple composite deck with a standard black grip tape with the Bajaboard logo on top. It feels really big from the get-go, and it forced me to have a wider stance that I'm usually used to. On top of that, it forces you to square up your stance. Usually on some electric skateboards, I prefer to angle my front foot out just slightly, but on the Bajaboard, I felt like I completely lost control when I was doing that. So I had to stand on it similar to how you would stand on a snowboard. And it didn't take long for me to become comfortable with this stance, and after you do, you have insane amount of control over the turning. The grip tape wasn't the coarsest that I've ever experienced on a board, probably because it's old and well used by Jay, but it had plenty enough grip to keep me in place without slipping around. The Bajaboard has huge 10-inch all-terrain pneumatic tires which require a pressure of 35 psi. And make sure you always pump up those tires before you go for a ride to ensure that you get the best performance out of your board. As for the trucks, well, they're not really trucks at all. They're more synonymous to how the front wheel axle of a car works. The wheels turn independently of the axle to the left and the right, unlike regular skate trucks that turn the entire axle when leaning. The Bajaboard has shock absorbers at the front and the back of the board, and they do an incredible job at soaking up the vibrations and uneven bumps and cracks in the road, so the ride is always going to be smooth. It also has preload and rebound systems. This system, when you first set up the board, requires a little bit of customizing based on your weight. In particular, the preload and the rebound needs to be set to your specific body weight to ensure that you get the most comfortable ride. The Bajaboard G4 runs a dual belt drive system with 63mm motors, and you can even upgrade to the G4 X, which has 4 sets of motors for insane power. There's 2 battery options. The 550 watt-hour battery is rated to get you 15 miles or 25 kilometers, and the 900 watt battery to get you 24 miles or 39 kilometers, which is gonna cost you an extra $500 US. Despite having issues with the remote initially, the Bajaboard remote is actually one of the best experiences I've had with an electric skateboard. It has an on and off switch at the bottom of the handle, an index finger trigger for accelerating and braking, and 2 function buttons below the LED screen. Now, it may look ugly and oversized, but it is super convenient. Almost every aspect of the board is customizable through their intuitive menu system on the remote. You can modify the top speed, acceleration, braking, differential, traction, orientation of the screen, the unit of measurement, speed limitations, warnings, riding style, and pretty much everything else. There are 3 uniquely different riding modes. There's cruise mode, burnout mode, and drift mode for hanging tight donuts. Cruise mode is where you'll spend most of your time, and it actually has a real cruise control mode. To activate it, make sure you're on the cruise mode, then when you're riding, hit the right function button on the remote, and your board will maintain that speed until you hit the accelerator or brake. Overall, the build quality of the Bajaboard is as solid as a truck. It's completely different from any other e-board out there. Now, let's talk price. Your low-end Bajaboard is at the high end of the price scale for the e-skate industry. Expect to fork out a minimum of $3,000 US for the base model. You can then add extras such as alloy rims and a high-capacity battery, which is going to put the price up to about $4,000 US. And then on top of that, if you wanted to upgrade to the G4 X, which has the 4 motors, that's going to cost you another $750 US. And if that's not enough for you, then Bajaboard offer their signature series Pantera, which is yet another level of insane. You can also get in touch with the guys at Bajaboard if you've got any unique or special needs that you want on your board. Alessandro and George are always more than happy to help out. So there you have it, that is the Baja G4 electric skateboard review. If I've helped you out at all, please hit that like button and make sure you subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all the latest electric skateboard reviews and news. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. What do you think, mate?
Pretty good. I'd buy one if I had the money.